This is sweating like a slave talk. Look at that. Sweating like a slave. You gotta get that vitamin D in though. Paul Mooney. Oak time. Oak, definitely not. Paul Mooney. We all know the history. Writer. I would go so far to say, thus far, the greatest comedic writer of all time. I mean, look at the resume, the accolades. I mean, he's been everywhere, bro. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? Paul Mooney, the greatest comedic writer of all time. I'm talking about, I'm not talking up against Mark Twain. You know, we're about to Mark Twain. I'm talking about a comedic writer of the latter 20th century who impacted a culture all the way down to the 21st century, changed the culture. Not just Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney together impacted the culture so much that it changed the whole thing changed and shifted. All those all that material he wrote shaped what we know today as comedy. Let's keep it real. The Godfather of comedy indeed. And when you look at all this material, this man, this contribution that he gave to comedy, it's just like how him and Pryor met was just fate. You know, you can look up the story how they met each other. It was just fate for them to come together and pack that culture. Comedy started to take a shift in the '70s anyway. Carlin changed. Carlin was like, forget it. He was going for a certain success or look, and he felt like he had to look that way to get it. But when he realized that that wasn't the case, he became himself and continued to be himself to the day he died. But Paul is, when it comes down to comedy, man, Paul really shouldn't have been questioned. If anybody was in the room with him asking him to come write and hire him to question, not to say you can't have a discussion with him, but to question his material, it's kind of it's crazy when you really think about that. Why you're this is Paul Mooney. I mean, this man have seen and experienced so much and kept up with the times. The man kept up with the times, though. You know, sometimes you can write about something before, but Paul kept going. Um, he kept going. It's not too many topics of the last 20 years that before he passed that he didn't touch on at some point of another. He touched on that topic. He used his humor. His stand-up became more strong. I mean, I ain't gonna say more strong, but his stand-up became more appreciated the older he got. When he started really, and he was on the stage before, but the generations started to find out more about it, and they still are. A guy was watching, was looking at Paul Mooney reacting to his videos. I mean, this guy looked like, 20 years old, and he's talking about he's talking about Paul. You see what I mean? So Paul is still going on. It's still growing. It's still moving to this time. But I would arguably say that Paul I wouldn't even say arguably. I would say Paul is the greatest comedic writer of all time, thus far. Thus far. Thus far. And I'm going through the archives. As far as, I guess you could say, as far as how he contributed to many different platforms, shows, movies, stand-up comedy. I mean, this man was still writing when the Dave Chappelle show was around. Still writing, still going in. So that speaks for itself. Paul, rest in peace.